Okay, so we've made a new character, AdumbAnt. Now we go through the setup. Most people will just run through the game and learn all the different setup things as they go. I have made over 120 characters. What was it, 124? AdumbAnt makes it 124, I think. I've got something of a ritual for basic setup. So first, I expand this. Now, I don't use it much, but here's something that people should know. You can activate things in the second tray by pressing Shift What was it? Control? No. J2? Huh, that's weird. That used to work. Oh, it's Alt. Okay, so Alt 1. That activated Sprint. That deactivated it. For the third tray, it's Control. And that's the power side, and that's the power slide. That was a power that was available to people that pre-ordered the first release of City of Heroes. I'm not going to use it on this character, however, so I'm just going to remove it from the tray. So, Control 3, and that activates it, or I can just click it. I just click. That's because I'm an uneducated Philistine. I'm not a man of class. Transact for victory. Pay to win. Here in Praetoria, things are the same as in Primal Earth, which is the normal City of Heroes and Villains. But everything's twisted and changed. So where Primal Earth has the pay-to-win vendor, Praetoria has the Transact for victory. Tell me about your merchandise. Tell me about your specials. Recycling refurbishment. If there's anything you don't want to use, they'll go ahead and take it back. So show me your wares. There are enhancements that I can get. These are actually really useful to have. It's like slotting in a couple of dual origin enhancements. They level with you. Well, ish. Even though they've only got these ones, their effectiveness winds up being roughly the same as an even level dual origin enhancement, all the way up to level 21. Now, they still maintain that effectiveness past level 21. However, they've also got programmed random occurrences, procs. So there's this. Will of the Seers. Damage, recharge, chance for psionic damage. Then there's this. Might of the Empire. Damage, recharge, chance for knockdown. I like to put this into Brawl. Clockwork Efficiency, chance for energy damage. Resistance Tactics, chance for smashing. because smash the state. Syndicate technique. Chance for lethal damage because the criminal's trying to put a knife in your back. Now, sadly, there's no City of Heroes, City of Villains versions of these. They do get these, but anybody who exclusively plays those probably has no idea why these enhancements are named these enhancements. So, chance for lethal. Put more lethal on my lethal. And I'll just hold on to these. Prestige powers. We can get some more attacks. These were abilities that were afforded to players back in the Paragon days for having a certain amount of time subscribed to the game. Sands of Mu is a really useful one. Your character brawls and pummels the enemy. It's more brawling than brawl, but it also has other things attached to it, such as the fact that it's basically an everybody can use it form of Shadow Maul, a dark melee power, which gets really interesting when you're using it on a dark melee character. Because you can Shadow Maul a group of enemies, then Sands of Mu that same group of enemies. And if you've played the right mission on hero side, you'll have another Sands of Mu. It's mostly just funny to see. There's the Undead Slaying Axe. You can have that along with Sands of Mu. I'm not particularly keen on getting it on this character though. But it's good for chopping up ghosts and zombies. The Nemesis Staff with an origin bonus. If you're technology or science based, you get an origin bonus on this staff, meaning it does extra damage. If you're natural origin, you also get that bonus. However, there's the Black Wand. Natural origin also gets that bonus on this. However, if you're not natural origin, then you would want to have either magic or mutant origins for your powers in order to get the damage bonus. Since this character is science-based, I'm going to go ahead and take the Nemesis Staff. Now, I can get out of the Undead Slaying Axe or the Black Wand. Or I can just leave them as is. I can get buff pets, which are little pets that can follow you around, like a fairy pet, a red wisp, which is a glowing ball, a power drone, or a type of clockwork. Like, let's see, the power oscillator. And he follows me around. Let's wait for that to recharge. Huh, I never knew that before. Well, looks like I'm stuck with a power oscillator. Which is alright. If I ever think about getting another one of these, I just need to wait until I've got enough inf currency. For blue side, it's influence. For red side, it's infamy. For here on gold side, it's information. INF. Inf. Let's go ahead and rename you. I'm going to rename you Joey. As long as this little guy is following me, he's boosting my damage resistance and my damage. It's not much, but it helps. However, he also ends up attracting a lot of undue attention. Enemies will go after him before they go after me. I might not want them to do that, but I'll just go ahead and leave Joey up for the moment. So I've got prestige attacks, I've got prestige enhancements, travel powers, jump. I can get a jump pack, or I can get steam jump. I think I'll go ahead with the jump pack. It's a set of fins that come out of your back. Simple, generic. I can rocket up into the air. And it gives me double jump capability. Lasts for 30 seconds and then shuts down. Now for travel powers. I can go with a beast run. Character drops down to all fours and starts scrabbling along the ground. I can go with ninja run. The character drops low, throwing their arms out to the sides like they're a ninja, and then runs around like a ninja. Or just athletic run. You just run faster. All three of them, you run faster, you jump higher. They're nice powers to use if you don't want to be burning a power on a travel ability. For this particular character, I'm going to go with the athletic run. Jumping higher. A little bit slower. Don't jump nearly as high. And average. And still jump a little bit lower than sprint. And finally, utility ability. Inner inspiration. Builds inspirations. Mystic Fortune. You draw a tarot card for one of your allies, and it gives them a boost for, I think, 20 minutes. And it's not a bad boost either, but the problem is it's random. Fortunately, Mystic Fortune doesn't suffer from secondary mutation. Secondary mutation, most of the mutations are good. One is bad. One is very, very, very bad. It turns you into a Rickety monkey. And for a minute, you are this little tiny mutant that can barely even attack anybody, and the worst damage it can inflict is when it farts. A lot of players hate it. I think it's hilarious. However, for this character, I think inner inspiration will suit him best. Then there are these. These are power suppression abilities. Disable powers, grays all of these out. Only affect self, makes it so you can't affect your environment. Revocation. So, say I don't want to be using the Science Origin temporary power, the Trank Dart. Oh, now I can revoke the Power Oscillator. And maybe it just needed some time. Yeah, but I'm already attached to Joey. I'm going to leave him there. See, I didn't want to use Athletic Run. I can remove it. That allows me to remove any of the ones I just picked and pick another one for no charge. The pay-to-win vendors, the transact for victory vendors, these are great for beginning characters. It gives them a little bit of extra oomph to get through the game. You don't necessarily need them, but they help. But in this case, the Trank Dart can put enemies to sleep. But I don't think that really suits AdumbAnt. So let's go ahead and revoke that. And let's go back to the Prestige Towers. The Prestige Powers. We've got some new options. I can get back that Trank Dart I just threw away. I can get myself some throwing knives. I can get a Taser Dart. I can get the Mutagen. It's okay. Among these, the only one that really tends to have a decent utility as the game progresses is this Apprentice Charm. It's what the magicians get. You throw it at the enemy, it hits them, it reduces their damage resistance. This is actually a great thing to have all throughout the game. But most archetypes, you'll stop using it. Definitely around level 20. For AdumbAnt, however, I don't know, I should say that correctly. AdumbAnt. I need to get into that habit. AdumbAnt. But I think this character would work better with throwing knives. And that's the basics for the pay-to-win vendor. So now I've got powers. High pain tolerance. It's always running. Savage melee. Got it right there. The jump pack. Got it right there. Athletic run. Sprint. Throwing knives. Put those there. And the Sands of Mu. Put those there. The inherent fitness. Fitness used to not be inherent. It used to be something you had to get. You'd wind up burning your teen levels building your fitness pool. Swift or hurdle, or then followed with health, which boosts your regeneration. Finally at level 20, stamina. Almost everybody did this. because otherwise you were sucking wind after every fight, and frankly, you don't want to be resting after every fight. You just want to move on to the next one. And then there's Inner Inspiration. I usually use tray 2 for my toggle powers. But this is how I set up my character's trays. So what I usually do is create 2 new ones. Manipulate them. And there we go, side by side. The pet, the Inner Inspiration. At level 2 I'll get Rest, which I'll put right there. At some point I'll get the Ouroboros portal, which I usually put right here. If I had the secondary mutation, I would put that here. And the Mystic Fortune, I would put somewhere on this row. I'll be getting other powers that I'll be putting here. Eventually, I'll fill up this tray with Savage attacks, so I'll be moving Sands of Mu. And at some point, I'll just take Brawl out of the mix, because it just, especially with Savage Melee, eventually you stop using Brawl for most sets. My shield defense characters still use Brawl because that's how you get the average shield bash attack. But most characters eventually stop using Brawl and the temporary attack power. Let's go ahead and pop that. That gave me some added damage, some added defense, and I can heal myself. Won't be able to do that again for another half hour. Now, the chat box. You can set this up however you want. This is one of the main things that drove me away from the secret world. I don't know how people did it. I couldn't talk to anybody. I mean, there was a chat option. You could chat regularly. Hit enter. Type out what you want to say. Hit enter again, and your character talks. Local broadcast talks to everybody in the area, like in the map. Everyone in this map would hear me if I broadcast. Team, it's like radio. So everybody on your team can hear you. If I was teamed up with somebody, they would see me here, and I would see their name here, along with my own. League is like a large team. Actually, it's a team made of teams. Everybody on the supergroup, if I was a member of a supergroup, they would hear that. Request. Request is like broadcast. Everybody in the map, it's just in a different color, so it looks different. Request is usually used by raid leaders so they can deliver instructions. Since the advent of the League, however, League has taken over that function for the most part. Friends, everybody in my friends list can see this, and it's everybody in my actual server friends list. Then there's my global friends. There's my friend Devious. He's probably trying to talk to me right now and wondering why I'm not responding. Well, let's go ahead and do some edits. This is where I can edit what goes into my chat. These are custom channels made by various players throughout the game. Jello shooters, a callback to the old Paragon days. Most Protectorites would probably remember Jello shooters, a channel originally made for Hamadan raids, eventually ended up turning into our general purpose chat room. Borderline Insanity was a channel made by a small group of us role players. And now here in City of Heroes Homecoming, we made it again so we can keep in touch with each other here. So let's just go ahead and add all of these. Yeah, some of these others, Ultra, Sovereign, Torchbearer, TFs, those are more utility, made by some of the friendly folks here on Torchbearer. Sovereign and Ultra are based on a pair of supergroups who regularly run events. Homecoming United and Torchbearer TFs, they've got some drama going on between them. I don't get involved in it. I don't care. Whatever can help tell me what's going on in the server, I'm happy with it. Now, what else would I want to have in this? I think I would like to have General. And then there's the Global tab. I don't want that too cluttered, so I usually remove Looking for Group, I remove Help, I remove Local, I remove League because it doesn't need to be there, and I remove General. Now Global is telling me just the functions that I need. Okay. Now Borderline Insanity. So I told my friend what I'm doing. I don't know if he's going to see it. He might be costuming. He might be base building. Some things really take your attention away. But for now, I'm going to go ahead and proceed. Because now I've got my chat window the way I need it to be. Huh. That's neat. Getting his ass beat by the Reichsman. That's one of the high-end arch-villains of the game. A guy whose appearance looks like M. Bison from Street Fighter. Yeah. I'm not going to get into my feelings on that. I'm going to focus on the tutorial here. So, in the old City of Heroes tutorials, it was basically go to contact, get some dialogue, move on to the next task. With Going Rogue, they played around with the dialogue trees. This operates as if you are a freshly trained superhuman of the Praetorians, the leaders of this particular Earth. So I can go with beginner, which gives the moment by moment explanation of how the game works. Veteran just runs you through some basics. I'm going to take a look at this optional one though. I try to click this whenever I can. It's, some dialogue trees in the game, there aren't very many, but some of the dialogue trees feature these optional moments, and they can be related to how your character functions. For instance, there's one arc on Red Side where you're dealing with a guy who's a psychic, and the contact tells you that you need psychic protection, but you say your character's backstory, the backstory you, the player, made for your character, is that they're a robot. So they don't have a biological brain to be affected by psychic power. Well, they threw an optional dialogue choice so you can tell the guy, hey, my brain doesn't work like that. At which point, the character goes, look, if you're talking to me right now, you've got some kind of mind, which means that you can be affected by psychic power. So take the protection we're offering you. A fun little meta commentary on how psychic powers basically do whatever the writer wants them to do. So, wait, something isn't right here. Huh. I didn't join the Powers Division. Ha ha ha. And yet, here you are. If you have superpowers, want to carry a gun or other weapon, or are an expert in unarmed combat, you join the Powers Division. It's the law. We have a 100% recruitment rate. Kind of funny. That was probably going to be the story of the Marvel MMO. Hence the reason why they did that whole plot at the end of Civil War, where they set up the initiative. Then Marvel dropped the MMO deal, and Cryptic had to go and use that engine on something else, at which point they made Champions Online. And then a few years later, Paragon used the exact same plot for Evil Earth. Wait, I've never heard of these laws. You must not be from around here. Kind of a weird thing to say. This is Praetoria, Emperor Cole's Utopia. The Powers Division is a special division of the Praetoria Police Department, the PPD. Most of the PPD do the day-to-day maintenance of the peace, but the Powers Division is called in for missions that require your special skills. Just because you have superpowers doesn't mean you're better than anybody. It means you have a civic duty to serve. Me? I chose this job because I believe in Emperor Cole's vision. And then you can give him some attitude. Yeah, right. Look, kid, you obviously don't like me, and I don't like your attitude. But if you want to get out of the Powers Division already, you'll have to go take it up with Reese. Alright, I'll do that. Before you meet with Reese, I'd like to send you through basic training. This will teach you the skills you need to tackle whatever mission Reese might throw you into. Unless you're good to go, of course. Can never tell how much you Powers Division people already know, so it brings you right back. In this case, I'll just go ahead with the basic training, show people what the tutorial is like. And the way the tutorials go, they send you to various other contacts It gets you familiar with using the contacts. It gives you some basics on the background lore. Explains how enhancements works and explains how these inspirations work. Takes you through combat. Something I meant to ask you. Okay. So, where to? Oh yeah, basics on how to move. The game uses basic WASD movement. You can also use the arrow keys. Forward, backward, turn right, turn left. I prefer to use the WASD. So A is strafe left, D is strafe right, S is backwards, W is forwards, Q is turn left, E is turn right. If I were flying, X would allow me to descend. R is run, so you just automatically move. Space is jump. And those are the basics of movement. This guy's explaining how to target. What's wrong with these clockwork? Resistance sometimes hacks our clockwork and turns them against us. I have a few clockwork here that were reclaimed from the resistance. Unfortunately, in my attempts to retrieve data from them, they seized up into this malfunctioning mode that wiped their memory. They're useless now. I have a great use for them. Target practice. So, pressing tab cycles through the different clockwork enemies that I've got here. If they're enemies, they wind up with this red reticle around them. Here in Praetoria, you can still do this cycle through, but some enemies will wind up with a yellow border around them, meaning they're not enemies. They're just NPCs. But they might have a reaction if you get too close. Some of the auras that characters have are considered attacks. And like the guy said, press F, which is F for follow, to get in close, to use the attacks. I can't attack fast enough. You can't just attack non-stop. That's because all powers have a recharge time. When you use a power, it goes dark until it recharges. The Homecoming crew also unlocked an ability to get a timer. Okay. So, it goes dark. We also get a timer telling us exactly when the power is going to be recharged. Get up to this guy. These powers are a mess. I need organization. How do I not die while defending the peace? Tells you how to go to the hospital. So if I get defeated, I'll be transported to somewhere else on this map. And that's the hospital. My character gets back up and I resume the game. Player characters don't die. Player characters don't die in MMOs. Your science powers are just sparking right now. For instance, you have a 5% chance to deal double damage against any target when using your scrapper attacks. This chance increases to 10% against lieutenants, bosses, and stronger foes. You can right-click powers in your power tray or buffs below your status bar to learn more. Info. Savage Strike. The description, the detailed info. You can learn all of this even as you're going through your character's level up as you go to select powers. That's all well, but my power tray is disorganized. It's not. I already went through my power tray at the beginning of this. But he tells you about how you can shift your powers around. Talks about using clues. A lot of people ignore these, but there are quite a few clues that are interesting to read. Sometimes they've got jokes or gags in them. It can be fun, or at least a chuckle. You also get souvenirs for arcs you've completed, and architect souvenirs for any architect entertainment arcs that you've played. This is one I got a while back. Oh yes, this one's for the arc I made. An arc I made that is basically full of the worst enemies you can fight in the game. Something neat to point out. That is the opposite pattern of what we use here in the normal world. It's supposed to be red on top, green on the bottom. Red on top because ostensibly you're supposed to always be able to see it. Okay, now I need to talk to Reese. Here are some enhancements. They'll increase your damage output a bit. How do I slot and use enhancements? Bring up enhancements. Manage. And he gave me these. I'm not going to use these because I'm already using better ones. Increases damage by 33.3%. Huh. Fairly certain these are single origin strength. Just a moment, I have to deal with my dog. Alright, so I'm going to hold on to these enhancements, but I'm not going to use them just yet. I'll probably use them later when I've got more slots on these powers. And I'm ready now. What's going on here? The destroyers are assaulting the precinct. What's it look like? Feel free to take down a few on the way to your mission, but as you can see, I pretty much have it under control. Who are the destroyers? The destroyers believe in only one thing: the strong make the rules. They've been getting more violent every day, but they're disorganized anarchists. I'll probably be done with them by the time you get back out. The Resistance are using the destroyers as pawns to destroy our beautiful city. The Resistance are subverting members of our orderly society with their lies and propaganda, creating chaos and destruction among us. I need an insider to weed them out. That's where you come in. Me? What can I do? I need you to infiltrate the Resistance. There are destroyers all over the streets. It's a mess. Don't be fooled, however. They're just pawns of the real threat to peace in Praetoria. The Resistance. The Resistance is always looking for new recruits. I've made it known that you aren't happy being inducted into Powers Division. This should be enough to get your foot in the door. The rest is on you. Where should I go to find the recruiter? There's a Resistance recruiter that is all ready to meet you. Go to the door under the nearby underpass. That door will take you into the underground. Once you make contact with a Resistance member, I will send in additional troops to arrest him and his buddies. Be careful. The Resistance will tell you anything to get you to join them. Don't fall into the trap of believing their lies. Then we got a lieutenant. A little bit tougher. Now, since this is a tutorial, it doesn't matter how many of these guys I beat up. I am never going to gain enough experience to gain a new level. Oh no, they destroyed Joey. Joey, no! So we continue down the street. See fighting going on left and right. Kind of wish we could have gotten the powers that the Praetorian police use. Would have made for some interesting characters. I could have made some power armored types that could have used that. That was him getting knocked down by Brawl as he knocked me down with one of his super strength attacks. Now before I continue to the door, I want to check something. These are badges. You can earn these for various things. In this case, I want to look at defeats. I do not have any options showing up. No accomplishments, no achievements. Alright then. In the old tutorial, you could actually get badges for defeating some of the enemies. Defeat enough of them, and you would get the badge. Some people, they're completionists, so they go after those as much as possible. Fortunately, we've got the Ouroboros, which allows us to access old missions, including the tutorial. Here's a clockwork. I don't understand what you were saying. Why do you speak strangely? This clockwork has been reprogrammed. So, the clockwork in Praetoria are interesting. The Paragon developers created a clockwork language that is based on actual programming languages. I never did enough of a deep dive into the joke, but sometimes you can actually understand when the clockwork are talking in their own personal phrasing. Yeah, I'm loath to call it gibberish because there actually is intent there. So basically what he was telling me to do was click on this. You retrieve the inspirations. I already had inspirations. And because I already had inspirations and this was already full, I couldn't get any new ones. Resistance are a group of freedom fighters led by Calvin Scott. Their goal is to bring down the tyrant, Marcus Cole. He has taken away too many of our liberties in the name of peace. The final straw for the resistance was the removal of the freedom of thought. All thoughts of the people of Praetoria are now monitored by the seers. However, once you join the resistance, you will be able to protect your thoughts. Eventually, with Cole's destruction, the people of Praetoria will be free once more. Tell me about Emperor Cole. Emperor Marcus Cole is the Emperor of the Earth. The history books have recorded that he has saved our world countless times over. It is said that he has withstood a nuclear attack and has fended off Hamadon with his bare hands. The people of Praetoria believe that he is a god come to show us the way to perfection. He claims responsibility for saving Praetoria from the brink of total destruction and creating the utopia that it is today. How does Cole keep the peace here? The Praetorian Police Department. Like I said, through the tutorial, you get the basics of the backstory. The old City of Heroes tutorial was we've survived the Richti attack, we've rebuilt society, but there's still problems that we have to deal with. And you wind up having to deal with what's called the outbreak, where somebody took a super virus and distributed it amongst homeless people, leading to a group of sick people just randomly attacking people. And so you, as a hero, had to go through, fend them off, and eventually find a treatment for it. City of Villains, their old tutorial was breaking out of prison. Arachnos, the organization that runs the Rogue Isles, stages a prison break looking for the Chosen One, the villain that was going to help lead Arachnos to victory. Could it be you? And that's sort of the meta plot of City of Villains. It has a twist. I'm not going to spoil it. But just remember, it's kind of hard to be the chosen one in an MMO. And then there was this, the Going Rogue tutorial. There's an updated version for City of Heroes and City of Villains. In this case, Galaxy City has been struck by a meteor. And you play a hero who has survived the hit and then has to struggle through the broken city to determine who they are by the end of it. At the end of that tutorial, you can decide whether you're a hero or a villain. And ready to go. And I've got to get through this fight. Here on Gold side, the Resistance has a way of talking. This particular character is saying that he's going to talk to me in plain talk. That's because Resistance speak is, well, watch Clockwork Orange. That's basically what Resistance speak is. Some people like it, some people hate it, and oddly enough, that also goes for the in-game characters too. Some people get so deep into it, it's hard to understand what they're saying. But it's a mental trick. So long as they're thinking in Resistance speak, it makes it difficult for the seers to read their minds. Got a badge for looking into the optional dialogue. Neat. With going rogue, we started seeing actual dead bodies in the game. Here's a cutscene. So I can join the resistance, or I can remain a loyalist. Now, I was sent in here, my character barely even understanding what was going on. I was told to fight these people. I was told that they're a threat to Praetoria and its glorious nation. A lot of 1984 speak coming out of the PPD. Then I get into the sewers, find the resistance fighting ghouls and saving civilians. But on the same token, the PPD's not lying that a sizable chunk of their forces are the destroyers, a violent gang that just wants to wreck everything. Still, I think joining the resistance will fit this character better. Besides, it opens up pretty much the entire game map. And I can still talk to loyalist members because, well, you'll see. So the dialogue here, he basically ends up telling you that you're going to be playing double agent. So you'll be working both with the Resistance and with Powers Division. Now, one of the funny things about Goldside is that the way they built these arcs, you really can only take one path. Most of the rest of the game, you could do multiple arcs within a certain level range, like multiple arcs between 1 and 5, multiple arcs between 6 and 10, multiple arcs between 11 and 15. In fact, the higher level you are, the more often you need to do multiple arcs in order to gain experience and level faster. With the old content, you usually wouldn't be doing more than one arc because the experience gain was already pretty high. But here for going rogue, the design wound up being more, this is your career path. And so you're basically picking your career as you go. So even though I'll have access to both a resistance path and a powers division path, I gotta pick one or the other. And I'll probably wind up out-leveling before I can get into the other. There is a way to deal with that, and that's by turning off my experience gain. But I'm not the kind of player that does that. I'm going to use that. So I'm still here to do the work of the loyalists. Not exactly. Once you've proven to Praetor White that you're a fine, upstanding member of the Powers Division, you can seek out members of the Resistance throughout Praetoria. There is another way. What's the other way? There are plenty of people fighting the good fight, but only a few insiders within the Loyalists. We could use someone who works exclusively with Loyalists. It'll be a dangerous job, and you'll have to be sure not to get caught. You'll probably have to do some questionable things against us in order to gain the full trust of the Loyalists as well. However, when you get to major operations, you can contact me. We'll figure out what you can do to turn the operation towards our favor. Be sure to be careful. So they really started playing around with a lot of the game's mechanics here. It really is unfortunate that the game got shut down. It would have been interesting. But here I am, level 2. I'm going to talk to Praetor Duncan. Train to a new level of power. For my new characters, I usually spend the first few new powers on new attacks. I can also get mind over body and get detailed info. For now, I'm just going to go with Maiming Slash. And let's put a smashing damage into that. Talisman of the Initiates. You can see here, they're already starting to decay. So these won't do the same as what these do. So I was considering holding on to them, but instead, I'm just going to go ahead and get rid of them. By the time I can use them, I won't need them, and they won't help me anymore either. Away I go. Got another inspiration slot. This guy changes difficulty for me. Or I can set my difficulty myself. How tough are the enemies? How many enemies? Will I solo bosses? Yes. Will I solo AVs? No. And AV, archvillain, is the phrase used because technically that's what they all are. Archvillains, heroes. There are a couple that also have special titles given to them, but really, for the most part, that's what they are. It's just another tier of enemy. And they usually have special coding in there that make them hit harder, take less damage, or something. There are a few that are specially coded, so they have wild amounts of hit points. There was one that my friends and I fought that had an insanely ramped up regeneration rate. But the typical tier rating is underling, minion, lieutenant, boss, elite boss, archvillain, and giant monster. Giant monsters are free roaming enemies that typically need a group of PCs to defeat. Another pay to win vendor here. Talking about merit rewards, the merit vendor. This is a vendor for purchasing enhancements, which I don't have enough money for. This is a plaque. Okay. This guy talks about day jobs. Basically, the idea for the day jobs is you log off, your character assumes their civilian identity and does their job. The day jobs provide secondary abilities, temporary powers, maybe some boosts. For instance, anytime you log off in any random location, you're always earning patrol experience, which is sort of like what other games use for a downtime experience boost. In fact, that is what it is. Here's another plaque. So, that was the tutorial for Praetorian Earth. I'm going to go ahead and stop recording here. I suppose sometime in the future I might want to look into just cataloging the adventures of AdumbAnt. Until next time, thanks for watching. Have a good one.